Hey everybody, Chris Bruce here with King Creative, and we're digging into another COVID conversation because no matter what, we can't avoid it. It's affecting all of us. And today on this episode, we have Robert Herrera. Rob, with the mill, I can only imagine you've got a lot going on when it comes to maybe even reimagining or thinking about the co-working space. So how's everything going with you?
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy time. This is something that no small owner could have been prepared for. But yeah, we're making do, staying positive. Currently, at the moment, we're doing a lot of mail handling versus, actually meeting with members. But that's getting us through it, and I'm doing whatever I can to keep my staff and our members safe.
Yeah, so you'd like kind of become a courier service and a delivery mechanism for a lot of the members. And I saw the other day, you guys, it looks like you're doing some renovations, maybe taking this time to get to some projects at the mill that you've probably been wanting to do for a while. So maybe some silver lining in that.
Right. So like a great example is we were consistently doing events and conference rooms, conference bookings. That was a big part of our revenue stream. And now that we can't do that, I'm taking the time to repaint them all, pull down dry erase boards. We had, when we first started off, we used a cheaper dry erase board than what I would have liked to use. And we've upgraded them to glass now. And I'm hoping when people come back, they appreciate the changes that we did.
Nice. That's awesome. So the dry erase, so just for those curious now, so the glass dry erase boards, the nice ones, what's the benefit to that?
It's easier to maintain. The cheaper ones get dirty and kind of gross. So our conference rooms are pretty beat up. And when people come back to work at some point, it's going to be totally different. New paint, new artwork, new everything, including dry erase boards. And that's silly. And that's also something that I would hire a contractor to do. But now that, I have a full staff kind of losing their minds inside, we're at a safe distance going in together and fixing these things up ourselves.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that, right? Because we've been doing a lot of the same stuff over here at the studio. We've, on the second floor, upgraded the floors and repainted and doing a lot of little things just to kind of make it, a little bit nicer, things that we've been wanting to get to, but because of this, have unfortunately had some of the time, and it's a good, positive, healthy distraction to maintain some movement with these projects and keep things going. How's
Totally.
everything going outside of the mill? Obviously, you guys you're launching the new one up on 202. So what's going on with that?
So we had just opened that one like the 1st of January, and leasing was crushing it. We were ahead of schedule and everything, and of course, as of April 1, flatlined. But that's expected, and I think that there was a lot of things that we hadn't finished up there, similar to Wilmington. We're taking this time to put the final touches on and get things together. And on that note, what you mentioned, some of these projects we're doing, I noticed about 2.5, 3 weeks into this that my staff was showing signs of kind of, I don't know what the best term is to use, but they were kind of stuck in their own heads. They were kind of looking for what's going on. They were stressed because I was stressed. And I kind of made a transition then, including Concord, to just find all these things to do. So back to Concord, we did a whole day planting shrubbery around our new pergola area.
Shrubbery?
So just random fire bushes and random things around our pergola. And I noticed after that day an immediate change in their attitudes. And then I was like, all right, what else can we do? And we've just been getting after it. When people get back to Concord, I'm joking, it's going to be a jungle because we've done so many planting days and repotting.
Yeah, right. Well, it's a lot of watering to do too, right? So that's just more things to do. One of the things that we say, and I kind of repeat a lot around here, is in talking about projects, I think we can get lost in the minutia, but at the end of the day, progress is progress, right? So if we can do something to just nudge things forward, and dial in, and there's a lot of great things out there. There's a book I read years ago called The One Thing, and it speaks on that as well. I don't know if that's a book you've read, but it's a great one. And it's what is the one thing I can do today to get me closer to that goal? And it's about developing success lists and not just mindless to-do lists. And I think right now more than ever, we have to remind ourselves that there is an opportunity, despite all of this, to kind of drive in a positive direction. And we have to yeah, maybe reimagine it a little bit. And it's not the path that we had laid out for ourselves exactly. But if
Right.
you're flexible and you have the ability to shift and alter that path in a positive way, you can still make some really great things happen. And despite all this, get something done.
Right. Absolutely correct. And that's what we're trying to focus on. And on a daily basis, that kind of changes and evolves for us. But yeah, it's one day at a time and trying to stay productive, and trying to treat Monday through Friday like it's Monday through Friday. We put
Right.
on
Well,
substantial time to time.
yeah, it does help to shower. It does help to
Yeah.
get out of bed, to shower, to go through the routine, because if you just keep the pajamas on and you lounge around the house, it's pretty likely you're not going to be as productive as if you get yourself ready and you essentially go to work. I mean, that does make a difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've instilled that across all the few companies I'm involved in that we touch base around 9 o'clock every day. We get moving again because it's easy to slip into the day-to-day home life and kind of like drop the ball basically. And admittedly, in the first few weeks, we were all adjusting. And everybody did that a little bit of that, and we've kind of whipped it back into shape, and we're trying to be professional again.
Yeah, it was natural, I think, for everybody to look at least in the beginning, because we're still figuring out how long is this going to last, right? We're still
Right.
figuring out what all is going to shake out. But in the beginning, especially those that are grinding, I mean, you think about even the restaurant industry where, that is a really grueling day and week. And a week off probably felt pretty good in the beginning, right?
Right,
And
right. The
then you
first,
get to that second week and you start going, all right, I'm kind of itching. And
yeah.
then the third week, the fourth week comes around, and now it's really serious, and you're getting a little bit more nervous about, okay, we can't, the vacation's well beyond over, right? And we need to
Right,
get
right, right.
something going.
Right.
Um, so one of the things that you obviously are known for, and that you have built your career on, is being an architect. You've
Right.
been you've really infused a lot of that into the design of the mill spaces and the work that you guys do. What are some of the projects that you were working on and are even maybe currently working on through this process?
Yeah, so crazy enough, that's a great thing to be working on when everything's shut down is to redevelop the next new project. Um, Personally, I have a lot going on the architecture side of things, which is really helping me stay busy and keep active. Um, one project, unfortunately, was furloughed, which we were doing a really cool design for the DuPont company to basically build a little conference center slash co-working space for them. And that's been pushed back, but not canceled. So we've kind of put on hold on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
And then,
thing. We like that term, pushed back but not canceled. We got to
right,
hold.
right, right.
Let's hold on to those.
Right. But I have started laying out and designing expansion space for the mill at Concord already, which sounds crazy, but I've had my eyes on the building next door to us and there's vacancies. So I'm taking this time to lay it out along with expansions here in Wilmington. So usually I'm doing that in the middle of a really busy time. And I've kind of turned my focus and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be rushed now. I want to lay out some cool new options and model them and render them, make them look pretty, and try to make it marketable when they, again, all this opens back up. In addition to that, we're also I'm personally doing some construction projects of a few apartments. I think a total of 8 apartments and 3 commercial spaces on the 9th Street block that are under
Nice,
construction as we speak. So I took this time to kind of double down on that.
cool.
Again, it just helps me stay sane, stay focused, and feel like I'm making progress.
Yes. No, I mean, you have to. I mean, and
Yeah.
you obviously you've put yourself in a position where you have some options, and that you have diversified yourself enough where, if one thing maybe is affected more so than another due to this, that you are at least able to shift your focus in a positive way. And that's a good lesson to be learned. I think when, and it's an old adage, of course, but you put all your eggs in one basket. If the basket goes away or if all the eggs are missing, that's a problem, right? So we have to
Right.
try to kind of safeguard ourselves from these types of things. And you mentioned the other day you were talking about a hotel you were working on, and I can only imagine that being relatively challenging right now. Maybe not so much from the architectural standpoint, but just like that business right now. Like, what's that going to be like when this all shakes out? How are they going to manage hotel
Yeah.
stays or really even any kind of public space? What do you think some of the new guidelines in maybe I hate to say new normal, but it seems to be a term that sort of works. What is that going to be?
Well, it's definitely not yet. It's definitely a scary time to be in that business, but I definitely do not see that model like changing for forever. But I think in the next 2 years, we're going to see it ease back in. It's going to look it's going to look totally different. Um, and I think that it's going to be more on the management side of things about how guests are handled and how cleaning processes work. It's going to be years until that industry pops back, and we take that day by day. So yeah, I am working on a hotel. Most of that's still kind of on the down low for a little while, but we are thinking differently about outdoor spaces and approach to things, and like the hotel
Yeah.
experience, at least in the next year, because it's going to open up in the next year and a half, and who knows what it opens up
Right.
to.
Well, I mean, that's at least a relatively reasonable time frame where you could hope that maybe in a year and a half, a lot of this stuff will sort of have figured itself out, and they'll have some things that they can work in. But just
Right.
any kind of public space, you think about the grocery store experiences with the one-way aisles, and the idea of at some point going back to some type of sporting event or theatrical performance or movie experience or entertainment in general and any kind of public gathering. It's hard to say how that's all going to
It,
come back. And like, are we talking about separating seats, taking out seats? Is it like, what does a family of four do if are they allowed to sit together? But how do you manage and monitor that? Like, it's just this whole thing.
right.
And
That's
I could,
That's
crazy.
one thing we've been looking at Theater End. We actually, it's so funny you mentioned that, but just a few days ago, I was in Theater End, which is a non-for-profit I'm involved with.
Yeah.
Um, and we're in the middle of revamping it now and updating some of the technology. And I was in there with a tape measure, just seeing how wide an actual seat was and what the
Seriously.
spacing would look like.
Yeah.
And we had talked about closing off seats when we said, oh, wait a minute, what about a family of four? It's funny. So we actually did the math on it. We like laid out a game plan,
Oh,
and we're
that's
even
awesome.
talking about setting up, everybody gets a little like, when you sit down and choose your seats, you tape off the seats next to you.
Really?
Like
Yeah. So you
we
create
hand people the tape. Yeah.
yeah, here are your tickets and your seat buffers,
Right.
and it's like a whole new process, which, I mean, it does limit the amount of seats you can sell, but from an experience standpoint and as an individual, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have that little cushion. You don't love to have people right on top of you if you don't
Right.
know them, perhaps. So I don't know. It's
Right.
interesting. I mean, but it's so funny that you literally just did that, and I was just, like riffing on a random idea, but that's awesome.
Right. And what we decided on was that was all kind of complicated, but what we would do is have somebody seat you, like
Right.
show you where your seats are, and that way we can fit more people in, but keep the 6 foot distance. Because we
Right.
talked about closing out rows, doing this, doing that, but we would manually have a full-time seater, basically, like
Yeah,
weights
that
on.
would be, what would you call that person? Is it like so like a engine, a seat engineer, or like, some type of, they give them some cool title, right? And maybe an
Yeah.
outfit that really adds to the experience. So then it becomes a part of it versus a
Right.
burden, right? Which,
Eh,
that's, you take a book out of Disney or something and just make that work.
Right. And the other thought too was to pre-sell everything and pre-seat. So another idea that we kicked around, and this is just us brainstorming about what that world's thinking like. I don't know if
Yeah.
other people are thinking like me, but we were talking about everything would be your concessions before you show up. You would choose that you're going to buy 3 beers and 2 popcorns and everything else, and you would
Gotcha.
have four seats bought with you, and we would have that stage and all the food and concessions already there, and you just go to your place. So you go to seat whatever, and
Right.
that way we had time to lay it all out. It's not like on the fly.
I guess with
And then
that,
you're
that
done, and
leads me,
there's no
well,
like sold tickets there.
it
Yeah.
leads me to think, would you then pre-plan your bathroom runoff too? Like, okay, so I'm going to leave at the 71st minute,
Yeah, yeah,
and,
you can.
you're scheduled, you know.
Yeah, when you buy your movie ticket, you can leave at
Yeah.
minute 43 in the movie.
And your seat buzzes when it's your turn.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a reminder. I think that's
yeah.
good. You just got to be careful it doesn't buzz too hard, because that might actually, cause them to, well, anyway.
Right.
The point
Yeah.
is, it's interesting. I think it's just interesting. These are things we never would have thought of before, and we probably wouldn't have even imagined having to think about. But
Right.
because of this, it's not really that crazy that we're having this conversation, and those thoughts are being had across the board.
Right.
You're a theater in Wilmington, but can you imagine what Regal and AMC and Cinemark and these major movieplex and brands are talking about right now? They're probably, I mean, dealing with all kinds of
Well,
options and protocols and thoughts for that.
and with those in particular, just kicking it here, I study that stuff kind of regularly, and we just had Goldie Beacon's doctorate program study
Yeah.
film and cinema for us just as a whole. And one of the, like, since 2005, the market share that those industries was already losing,
Mm-hmm.
and then now you put this pandemic on top of it. I really wouldn't want to be CEO of Regal right
Yeah, it's actually, it was just, we had a conversation just recently with Dan Young, and he mentioned that he helped you
now.
guys with that, and was pretty proud of that work that you guys did together, and appreciated the opportunity. But yeah, I mean, being in the video production and film space, and you look at all that, and it's really shifted the way that people consume content and stream. A lot of it is online, and you've seen a lot of the clubs, like movies have shifted, and Regal has their unlimited pass, and they're doing anything. They're really reinventing the way that people experience the movies. And I have family members that have the pass that see every movie that comes out, because now they have this unlimited pass and they pay a monthly subscription versus the traditional ticketed concept. I'm not sure. I mean, they're definitely having to reinvent themselves, and they're definitely having to get creative to figure it out. But it's not that people don't want entertainment. It's not that people aren't digesting it. It's just they're doing it differently, and that's just the evolution of it. Rob, I really appreciate you being on the show. Good luck with everything that you're working on. You definitely have your hands full when it comes to all that, but having that positive mindset and productive spirit really, really goes a long way. So I hope all of you guys can take some lessons from that and apply it to yourselves. Stay awesome, stay healthy, and stay connected. This was another episode of A COVID Conversation. See you guys next time.